This episode of Bulletproof Cash Flow is brought to you by Realty Dynamics. Learn how people like you can build substantial passive income while creating wealth for the long term through real estate investing. Visit rdyne.com. That's RDYNE.com.
Granted that you are found your quiet space, you're clear in what you want to do, then I teach this extensively. There's actually a 7-step process, but you begin by connecting with the person in front of you, whether it's a room of 1,000 people, one person is connect with them. How do you connect with them? You ask a relevant question, or you tell a story in present tense. You get a reaction from them. You make them engage in listening to you. Then you present your idea. And usually a good way to present an idea is with an I believe statement.
Working because you want to, not because you have to, is financial freedom. And we want to help you create that. Welcome to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We're going to teach you how to achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host is a multifamily syndicator and property developer. He's done deals reaching into the hundreds of millions of dollars. You'll hear from experts in all aspects of real estate investment, finance, development, and management. Everything you need is right here. This is the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. And this is your host, Augustino Pintus.
Quick question. How'd you find this show? Maybe a tweet or an Instagram post? Well, no ads here. Just a small favor to ask. If someone introduced you to this podcast, pass it on. Share, review, tell a friend. It means the world to me. Thanks a ton. Hey everyone, it's Augustino. As an entrepreneur or investor, it's easy to get caught up in the chaos or really lose sight of your core vision. Now, maintaining clarity, especially during uncertain times that we're facing today, is key to long-term success. Now, our next guest knows all about finding clarity in chaos. She is an internationally recognized strategist, coach, speaker, TEDx organizer, and author. Now, with over 20 years of experience, she founded Masters in Clarity, where she helps entrepreneurs clarify their messaging, their vision, and the strategies needed to grow their brands. Now, with all that, I'd like to welcome Dolores Hirschmann to the show. Dolores, thanks for coming on again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Agustina. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yes, me too. Now, guys, if you like what Dolores has to say, you can reach her via her website at mastersinclarity.com. If you go to /free, there's some other information there you can check out too. Okay, so mastersinclarity.com/free. Okay, Dolores, go ahead and tell listeners a little bit about how do you achieve that clarity as an entrepreneur, especially given where we are today.
Yeah, and I know you and I spoke. We're just checking in. We spoke in 2020, kind of before everything changed. So I feel like in the last three and a half years, everything and nothing has changed. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I think in this moment where, as business owners, whether you're in real estate or you're a coach or you are running a factory, everything that we had played with, our playbooks, that we were operating under have changed. But what hasn't changed, and I think what's where our conversation is going to go, is human behavior has shifted, but the human essence hasn't changed. And so when we talk about clarity, we need to go beyond the playbooks, beyond the tactics, beyond, if you want, the fads, right? The internet comes out. We all need to have websites. Digital marketing is a boom. We all have funnels, and then ads, and then Facebook, and then Instagram, and the platforms. And we all hop into these trains of, this is the next thing that's going to make me the most money. But very few of us sit down and understand, what do those things actually do for us? And so where does clarity come when everything is in question? It comes from coming down to understand, what do you actually know? What do you actually want to accomplish? And what are your strengths and weaknesses? Like, it really is as basic as taking a self-audit or an organizational audit, a team audit, and understanding, who are you as a player because when the tactic or the playbook falls apart, you need to reassess what you have in your team. What are the assets that you have in your company, and then create a strategy that aligns with who you guys are, or if you're a solopreneur, who you are. How does that land?
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I think that one of the biggest issues I think that many entrepreneurs have is that they don't really know that they need the help, right? Or maybe they realize at some point, it's like, why is nothing sticking? Why is nothing working? But they don't know where to go to fix it. Do you find that that's a very common thing?
It is a very common thing, and they get frustrated, and many of them continue to like, oh, I'll just pay money here, I'll get this guru here, and then this coach here, and everybody comes with a different strategy or perspective. I was actually just talking to an entrepreneur yesterday who is hopping on a call with a funnel guru, and I'm like, okay, that's great, but I thought you were just finishing your funnel with another guru. And he's like, yeah, but this guy says I don't know what. And I'm like, hold on. Because to go and get more outside advice is not always the best strategy. I think it's critical to get the right coaching and the right advice, but it has to align with you. And if you are like flailing, like, okay, I'm just going to invest money here or there to see who gives me the right spaghetti that sticks to the wall, you're never actually doing the internal work of owning the path and understanding, okay, I want to hire you because I need X, Y, Z from you. Not just, okay, the new magic formula. We are in a phase of life, but specifically business, where there is no magic formula. And the only way that we can go ahead is to create our own magic potion. And the own magic potion requires authenticity, requires personal clarity and clear goals and intention, and a lot of heart and passion into it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's worth reiterating, because I think that for someone to sit down and really define and get true clarity of their vision and what they want to accomplish that's where it all begins. I mean, that's where it all starts. It's super important. I know some of those people you're talking about. I know those folks that will throw money at gurus and throw money at coaches. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, listen, if it's matching up with what your vision is, that's fine. But at the end of the day, if you're expecting them to solve the problem, they're not going to do that. It really comes down to you, but everything has to align with the vision. I think that's what it really is. I think that's a real big part of it. And in today's world, especially if you're in real estate, it's a challenge. It really is. It's very, very tough out there. It's extremely hard. Extremely hard.
It's extremely hard, and not everybody's going to succeed, but those that will succeed are the creatives who are fully personally invested in a specific outcome, and they will move mountains.
Yes.
It's an era where it's not the survival of the fittest, is a survival of the most committed.
Yes. I think that's the hardest part. So how do you help people fortify their commitment? I mean, God, there's days, everybody has these days. Every single entrepreneur that's listening right now has those days where it's like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm so exhausted with all this, and their clarity gets clouded, right? Mm-hmm. How do you help those people really get through some of those bad times?
Well, so I think I don't know if we've discussed this before. So in my background, I come from the business world and the startup world. Then I started coaching, and I became a leadership coach, helping people with personal development. And I ran that business for a few years, and I realized that I loved it, but it wasn't enough because I love the business and the strategy side. And so my business today is being a business strategist. But what I love about the work I do is that I am a hidden coach. What I mean is, people hire me to fix their businesses. And what I do is, we can talk some strategy and some tactics, but where nothing sticks, what I do is I become a coach. And I believe that our success is going to be aligned or at pace of our own personal internal development. So how do I help the people where they've exhausted all of the tactics and strategies? We go in and we do some personal exploration. I feel like in some cases, and this is kind of a weird conversation to have in a business kind of interview, if you want, is we need to look and see what patterns are we repeating, what limiting beliefs are we operating under. We all are operating under limiting beliefs because we keep on growing until we die. So there's always one more that you haven't uncovered. And so really it's working with the entrepreneur and putting a flashlight to all of the hidden barriers that we have in our mindset that are creating the outcome that we're seeing in front of us. And you can say, well, Dolores, the economy is not a mindset. Like it's real, like the inflation is real, the interest rates are real, yeah, that's true. But so is creativity, and so is pushing through that. Let me put it in perspective. I'm from Argentina. I just came back from a month at home. I was reading, we are now towards the end of November at about 182% inflation in 2023 alone.
Wow.
182% inflation.
For the year, for current year.
For the year.
Wow.
Not for 10 years, not for 100 years, for the year.
11 months.
And just as a joke, the Minister of Economics is one of two presidential candidates voted in a election next week. How can the Minister of Economics present himself to be a presidential candidate with 182% inflation? You know that. You can tell he has a mindset of unlimited capacity because if that guy can show his face, I mean, I'm just giving you an extreme context where you would say that's impossible. That's a movie, like Hollywood will create that. No, that's.
I'll tell you what,
the newspaper, you'll read it in the newspaper today.
So that's funny. I don't want to get off topic here. But it's like I have to think. It's like, is the media pushing like, oh, there's no inflation at all. There's nothing. It's like what they do here in the States. You see it here too. They do the same thing. It's like they're not even acknowledging that we're in a recession or even teetering on a recession. They're totally sweeping under the rug because there's an election coming up, right? Even though
it's in the front page of every newspaper, even the newspaper that supports this guy. They have, if you go in the morning to buy milk and then you go out in the afternoon and the price of the milk changed. There's no hiding that.
Right.
When you can't go this week to buy X because your salary, which hasn't been indexed or changed, can't buy you the amount of food you bought last week. That you can't. There's no sweeping. But what I'm saying here is like, even in that environment, which is what my family, my peers, my friends are living in Argentina right now, there is tremendous growth and opportunities. And so that's us as entrepreneurs. We are wired. I mean, we are committed to seeing opportunities where others see none.
Yes.
And so that's where we need to go.
Yeah. So how do you stay focused then when you see all this chaos? You see all this craziness in the newspaper. You see, the price of milk jumping up by 10% in the span of a day. How does someone stay focused on creativity and not get bogged down in the chaos? How do you help them?
Yeah. I'm not going to say it's easy. It takes discipline. And, have you ever, and I'm sure if you're listening, you probably can relate to this. There's moments in our lives where we are so clear on what we want to accomplish. All of the naysayers, all of the noise kinds of fades away. And we have this kind of blinders, like a racehorse, and we just go for it. So how do you stay focused? You have to be disciplined to turn off the noise, That means turn off the newspapers, turn off the news, turn off the platforms and the Twitters and the Instagrams. Actually, it's not Twitter anymore. But turn off what derails your focus. And of course, I mean, you don't want to live in a box and, find the information, the news where you need to find them, but stay focused on your goal and stay kind of committed to your steps. I happen to have just come back from Argentina, and I decided to spend 8 days in a retreat center in the mountains. And so I signed up for this. And the first thing I got from different people that I mentioned I was going to this place was, don't go. It's extreme. It's too hard. Like, this is like a kind of like a cleanse type of place, right? Very edgy. And I was very clear why I was going. I was not afraid. And I respect their opinion. So I listened. But I did my own research. I answered my own questions. And I went anyway. And I had the experience I wanted to have. But had I just reacted to other people's opinion, I probably would not have gone. I would not have created the space I needed, because I'm also in transition like any entrepreneur there. I'm also finding my path. I'm also going deep in and saying, how do I want to approach 2024? Because this kind of hustle, putting stuff out there, 100 miles an hour way of life, I don't want it anymore. And so where did I go? I went to the most extreme place I could find, and it happened to be in Argentina, to spend a whole 8 days, half of it in silence, going in and understanding, what do I want in my life? And the answer to that is going to turn into a very profitable strategy. And I'll give you some part of the answer is, I want people, I want deep relationships, and I want authentic conversations with the people that I'm going to do business with. And that's what my heart is pulling. So what does that turn? Then once I get clear on that, I haven't actually done this exercise yet because I'm just coming out of it. But once I get clear on that's what I want, the strategies come quickly. What do I want? I want 10 people dinners in wonderful places with very healthy food and having an honest conversation, like almost no facade, no makeup, no high heels, no Prada purses, like real, honest, what do you want to create in your life type of conversations. And I want many of those. Maybe I want a stage, but not so much. I want a stage with 5 people around me and get to know them. I don't want to be a star. I want to be a guide.
Hey, my fellow Bulletproof Cashflow enthusiasts, I want to take a moment to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being an integral part of our fantastic community. Your support truly means the world to me and the entire team. If you've been enjoying this valuable insights that we've been sharing here, here's a humble request. Could you please subscribe to the show and leave a review on Apple Music? By doing so, you help us deliver more top-notch content and connect with even more passionate investors just like you. Thank you so much for continued support, and let's jump back into the show.
So it sounds like then, for anybody out there listening, what it comes down to is having even an honest conversation, even first with yourself. Like, what sort of vision do you have for your own life? What sort of things do you want to see happen? Especially going into, I know it's just another day. Even 2024 is just around the corner. It's just another day. It's a day on a calendar, and the calendar is created by people. Like, that's it, right? There's no magic number, no magic month or whatever. It doesn't matter. It can be done anytime, but fine. Let's make it 2024. It involves really someone sitting down, deciding by themselves what their life wants to look like. And then I think I like your point there. No, it doesn't have to be anything crazy in terms of who you put yourself around, but preferably, I would imagine you probably want to be around other, either maybe successful people or maybe people that are 10, 15, 20 years ahead of where you're at today, and engage with those folks. I mean, I like that idea about really, like, no drinks, no fancy dinners, none of that stuff. It's just like, let's have a convo, I mean, to get access to those sorts of people can be a little tough, I would say, right? Especially if you're for some people, right? They may not have access to those sorts of folks. And speaking of that, how does someone get access to those sorts of people to help first internalize what their vision is, and then maybe what they want to talk to other people to network with them, for instance, maybe. Do you have any tips that someone can use to go and try to find those people, interact with them, and engage with them?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many organizations out there, and you don't have to go and sit with Bill Gates. You don't have to go and get, the most bazillionaire. There's so many people that have done well in your backyard. Where do you find them? It depends. Let me give you an example. Sometimes you just have to ask. I just was invited last week. I was invited by the Women's Business Executive Group in our university to come and give a talk. And these are between 20 and 30-year-olds, because they were undergraduate and masters. I love those invitations. So you'll be surprised, but people who have, I'm not saying I am the most successful person, but I'm ahead of these young ladies for sure. So you'll be surprised that when you have an honest ask of connecting, you can reach to almost anybody in LinkedIn. Again, it depends on how you ask, and invite them to contribute to a younger group of people. And you might be surprised that you get a yes. And the thing here, Agustino, is that if you have ever been in a room with people ahead of you and you ask them, well, what's the secret? There's so many interviews. You don't even have to be with those people. You can Google secret of success and you're going to find 100 videos of other people's interviews. And if you just sat there and watch videos of other people, you probably are not in the room with them, but is as close to that. You probably discover a pattern of what their answers are. And I know there's books around it, but you can do your own research. And it comes down to clarity, commitment, and authenticity.
Mm. Now, how does someone then, I think you already answered the question, but I think it's worth reiterating here. How do you trust yourself when you don't have all the answers? I think that we often convince ourselves that we want to be social media, a social media influencer. I want to be a master of social media, but they're not willing to put in the work to do it. That authenticity then becomes important, right? So, how does trusting yourself to stick to the goals and even answer the question? I think that might be a little tough for many people, right? Like, how do you coach through something like that?
How woo-woo do you want to get in this conversation? Should we go there?
Sure.
I really think that I think there's I'm going to simplify here, but there's two parts to ourselves. Our brain, let's throw our ego into it, all of our thoughts, all of the things that we are, okay? Mm-hmm. And then there's our soul. I'm making it very simple. What we're talking about here is to bring this part, the brain, the ego, to slow down a little bit, to kind of quiet down a little bit, and let the soul start to lead your life. The ego and the brain is about who we are, and we're very limited, because if we believe that all of our ideas are ours, that all of that we know is ours, and that we can, in a vacuum, outperform everybody else, we'll be wrong. I believe that if we get to trust not our ego or our brain or our thinking, but our soul, if we get to trust our soul and know that our soul knows all the answers, we'll find the path. How do we find the path? When you wake up one morning and it's like, oh, I should call this person out of the blue. Please call that person. How do you trust your soul? By following the signs, the intuitions, the little kind of gut feeling. That's how you trust your soul, and you give it the space. If you get an idea and it goes into like a whole mental process with no action, that's your brain. If you have an idea and it's like, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody because this is mine. I created it. I am the sole proprietor of this idea. I'm going to protect it with my life. What you're doing is you're disconnecting your soul from the capacity of turn that idea into something.
Mm.
I got a little woo-woo there, but
No, it's fine. So for today, then, how can entrepreneurs better communicate their vision and engage with their peers and their audience and the people they want to influence? Like, how does an entrepreneur do that today? How can they better communicate?
So, granted that you are found your quiet space, you're clear in what you want to do, then I teach this extensively. There's actually a 7-step process, but you begin by connecting with the person in front of you, whether it's a room of 1,000 people, one person is connect with them. How do you connect with them? You ask a relevant question, or you tell a story in present tense. You get a reaction from them. You make them engage in listening to you. Then you present your idea. And usually a good way to present an idea is with an I believe statement. For example, I can say, I believe that we're in an era that if you are not in touch with yourself and what your passions are, it's going to be really hard to maintain your momentum. That's my idea. And then you introduce yourself. Why do you introduce yourself third? Because nobody wants to know who you are unless you give them a reason to want to know who you are. You already connected with the audience. You presented an idea. Now you share who you are in the context of this idea that you're presenting. And then you go into what I call the meat and potatoes. Then you teach, or then you present your data and your facts or the stories. You go into kind of the core of your message, right? Of your vision. And then you wrap it up. How do you wrap it up? You wrap it up in a way that you remind your audience of the idea that you presented, and you help them begin to dream. For example, I'm talking about, in this era of change, find the quiet inside, because outside is all chaos. So find the quiet inside before you go out into the world. That's my idea. And so I'm going to say, imagine what life would look like if you wake up on a Monday morning and you're clear of what you're doing that day, and that you don't get derailed with the news or Instagram or what another person is saying, but you're clear on what you're accomplishing that day, day in and day out. What does life look like that way? That's pretty cool. And then at the end, you ask them to take an action, whether it's go and find a way to quiet your mind today, or go to mastersinclarity.com/free and download one of my books, whatever is a call to action. I just lay out 7 steps. And those 7 steps have been working for me for over 10 years. This is the 7 steps that I would use with a TEDx speaker. These are the 7 steps that anybody can take and really communicate their vision and their message to the world.
Nice. I love it. So we'll have to check out that website too. So listen, there's a lot of stuff we went over here today. What sort of bulletproof advice would you have for someone listening that is really struggling with some of the chaos that's going on right now? How would you guide them in terms of getting through where they're at today?
Having trouble finding deals? The brokers are the key to your next deal. Check out my guide that has helped me meet dozens of them. Go to guidetobrokers.com and download the guide today.
Yeah, I would say take a moment right now as you're listening to this episode and write down the 5 things that you want in your life. I call them values, but 5 things that are important to you. I'll give you mine just as an example. I need adventure in my life. I need to belong to communities and to groups of people. I need creativity. I need leadership. And I need fun. Those are my 5 values. Those are my 5 values. And so once you write those 5 values, put it on a sticky note, put it on your computer, and then ask yourself the next moment you are doing anything in your business or life, are you honoring at least one of those in that moment? If you're not, over time, moments in your day, if you were to add up all the moments in your day and you realize that in no moment in any day you've honored any of your values, you're going for burnout and exhaustion, and I'm wondering, do I want to stay in this life doing this?
That makes total sense. Love it.
We're always either walking to work or walking away from our best life.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, listen, if you want to reach out to Dolores, you can reach her via her website at mastersinclarity.com. Check out her free stuff, mastersinclarity.com/free. Okay. There's getting clarity, especially today, is tremendously important just because of where we are right now. So stay focused on your vision and keep taking steps forward. Document what you want to see happen in your life, because consistently doing the action creates that clarity and leading to long-term success. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next episode. Take care.
You've been listening to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had fun. Make sure to visit our Apple Podcast page and leave us a 5-star review. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. For real estate coaching, events, and resources, hit up bulletproofcashflow.com. Till next time.
No information in this episode should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Any investment opportunities mentioned on this show are limited to accredited or sophisticated investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure and subscription documentation and subject to all applicable laws. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice.